Welcome to episode 9 of the Liberty Mastermind podcast. I'm Jack, along with Ox and Pat Leo. Tonight we'll be discussing whether you serve freedom and liberty or government and the flag. So, what's been going on, guys? What's the latest, Ox?
Oh, just still doing the job search stuff and interviewing and all that good stuff. Still doing my main job. The funny thing is, I got to tell you guys, the funny thing is it's only August and people like friends and family, they're starting to ask me about plans for Thanksgiving. But here's the funny part. When you're about 30 years old and you don't have a wife and kids, people start wondering, you know what I mean? Like, okay, quick story. So I'm at a family reunion.
It's like they're wondering, like, they think you're gay?
They start, yeah, maybe, right? So I'm at my family reunion in Texas with what I call my redneck family out in Stephenville. And here's my Uncle Joe Bob. He's like, hey, Ox, come over here. I want to ask you something. And I lean in. I'm like, what's
you garble balls.
What's going on, Uncle Joe Bob? He's like, been meaning to ask you something. Are you taking it up the butt? No, Uncle Joe Bob. Just because I don't have a wife and kids doesn't mean. Oh, just shoot me. Oh, my God.
You know what I would have said if I was there?
What?
I would have said, yeah, don't you think girls just kind of smell ooey?
I'm over females. Yeah, anyway.
All right, so let's roll into segment 1 before we lose our audience. Okay, I'll take lead on this bad boy. So not too long ago, like we said in our special episode 1, I mean, I don't think you guys do either. I don't watch the news a lot, and that's because that's way outside my sphere of influence.
No, I do not.
My sphere of concern is my side hustle and my 2 full-time jobs. I'm trying to figure out my life.
Yeah.
So this did hit the news, and I think I heard about it from you guys, where the first link we have is from the telegraph.co.uk. It's 2 Cuban diplomats expelled after a group of U.S. diplomats in Havana were left with severe hearing loss attributed to a covert sonic device. So that's from the Telegraph. So in there, I'm just going to read a couple excerpts that I already clipped out for you, so I shouldn't do too much dead time or searching through this. So Heather Nauert, spokesperson for the State Department, said that the Cubans were asked to leave Washington, D.C. on May 23rd. I'm already fucking confused. I hate news websites because they're packed with ads and I can't even scroll down the page correctly.
Mm-hmm.
But I also hate the news because when I read their websites online, I'm so goddamn confused. Okay, the article says, the title, 2 Cuban diplomats expelled from Washington in retaliation to U.S. diplomats in Havana getting hearing loss from a covert sonic device. That's a mouthful, but okay, well, were the diplomats in D.C., the Cuban diplomats that were in Washington, D.C., were they involved in this? Is that why they were expelled? Let's read on. After months of investigation, this is from the Telegraph, after months of investigation, U.S. officials, so someone in the government,
whoever that is.
Officials is a really subjective term. Someone in the U.S. government concluded, that means figured out, concluded that the diplomats had been exposed to an advanced device that operated outside the range of audible sound, and you guys are going to love this, had been deployed either inside or outside their residences. Thanks, you fucking geniuses. That's good.
Beautiful.
That's
and
good.
what is an advanced device?
It never said. The article never said. The article also goes on to say that they're not really sure. Okay, so then why the fuck did you say U.S. officials concluded? But we'll get to that. So, the next bullet point in this article says, it was not immediately clear if the device was a weapon used in deliberate attack or had some other purpose. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Back up, you fucking idiots. You just said the Telegraph is saying that they spoke to U.S. officials and U.S. officials concluded that they were exposed to an advanced device, either inside or outside of their residences. So, anywhere in the fucking world.
Right.
And then the next sentence says, it's not immediately clear if the device was a weapon used in a deliberate attack or had some other purpose. Okay, you got things fucking backwards.
So there was something, and it was advanced, and it may or may not have been in the immediate area.
Correct.
And it may
now
have been a weapon, but it might not have been a weapon.
So,
but it was deliberately used
with
to attack someone for some.
It was
other
used
purpose.
deliberately as a weapon, or maybe for some other purpose.
Right. Okay.
So because of that, we're going to expel these 2 Cuban diplomats because of something we might or might not know. Fucking brilliant. So this is a Telegraph saying the State Department would not specify how many Americans were affected, but the U.S. media reported that around 5 individuals, diplomats and their spouses, but no children, were involved. Well, that sounds pretty fucking specific for not being a specified number of how many people. Just 5.
Yeah.
Not 1 or 2 or 3 or 4, but 5.
Right. Thank God no children were hurt.
Well, we can't confirm, but we can confirm no children.
Right.
Okay, the next sentence says, but, it starts with but. Okay, so the State Department wouldn't say, but the U.S. media reported. Okay, well, where doesn't the U.S. media get government information from the government? Whatever, we'll let that slide. The next sentence says, but on Wednesday, they confirmed, the State Department, that the pair of Cuban diplomats had left. I don't even grammatically understand where this fits into the story. I just feel like they were like, maybe I should put this bullet point in somewhere. Here, right in the middle. So, the State Department did not have a definite explanation for the incident, but stressed it takes these issues very seriously and is working to determine the cause and impact. You know what? This is great. Internet media, mainstream media, I got fucking news for you. You are dying, you're dead. And people like us and the Liberty Mastermind podcast and Jack Spirko and Vin Armani and all these other, and the Corbett Report, we're growing and people like it because we're sick of your bullshit. Did anyone miss that? Because in the beginning I said the State Department concluded that they were attacked with an advanced sonic device. And then a few paragraphs later it says, the State Department did not have a definitive explanation for the incidents, but takes them very seriously and is working to determine the cause.
Yes.
I feel like it's so confusing. Like anybody reading that, their brain is going to go, and they're just going to shut down and go, okay, what was the conclusion that the article gave me? Oh, Cuba's bad. They used a weapon. Okay. I'll just go with that because I can't pick this apart. Like it's so
Cuban
confusing.
diplomats kicked out. Words.
So I also went to yahoo.com. Not much different. We have both of these links in our show notes on our website. This is from yahoo.com. Canadian diplomats have been affected by a suspected sonic device. Okay, it's either an advanced sonic device or a suspected sonic device. Can't be both. It is or it isn't. Okay, whatever. A day after U.S. officials said that their staff in Cuba have suffered from severe hearing loss, Ottawa said that at least 1 Canadian diplomat and their family members was treated in hospital after suffering headaches and hearing loss. Okay, good. We are aware of unusual symptoms affecting Canadian and U.S. diplomatic personnel and their families in Havana. Okay, so that doesn't sound very definitive. It sounds like someone has a headache. Could be something.
Which could be a shitload of things.
But it's not definitive. I'll say, so now the government, the Canadian government, this is from Yahoo, the government is actively working, including with U.S. and Cuban authorities, to ascertain the cause. Holy shit, 2 articles now. We know this thing happened. We're actually looking into it to find out what it was. We really don't know. Fucking brilliant. Okay, so in yahoo.com, they say the AP news organization. Okay, so now we're citing another source as our source. So the AP Canadian, sorry, I'm a little baffled. I'm fucking hot about this. So yahoo.com news says the AP reported that the U.S. is reporting that a months-long U.S. investigation had determined its diplomats had been attacked by a device that operates outside the range of normal audible sounds and used outside or inside the diplomats' residences. Again, so the first story said, we know it, we don't know it. The second story said, we kind of know it, we don't know it, but a different website told us that the U.S. said that they figured it out and that we're also still working on it to figure it out. So let's go to the source. So AP says, this is the third link in the story. This is from apnews.com. After months of investigation, U.S. officials, which official, concluded, we know what concludes means, right? Because if concluded means figured out, then Yahoo and the Telegraph are getting their source from the AP that's getting its source from U.S. officials, and AP and U.S. officials have, quote, concluded that diplomats have been exposed to an advanced device. Great. But again, ... it was not immediately clear that the device was a weapon used in a deliberate attack or had some other purpose. U.S. officials told the Associated Press that about 5 diplomats... Whoa. Didn't the first story say that the State Department would not say how many people had been affected?
Yes.
But now Yahoo cited AP, who's citing the State Department, telling us exactly how many people. I'm sorry, about how many people. So the Telegraph got their information from AP News, who got their information from the State Department. And Telegraph said, we didn't know how many people, but about 5. Okay, well, that's what the State Department said. So there's no reason to cite the AP. There's no reason to cite U.S. media in our first story. Just say the State Department, because that's where you're getting your fucking info from all these people. So the next time you guys in our audience decide to read the news and give a shit about it, even though it's outside your sphere of concern, the way I did this was I read the article, and I went, who are they citing? Are they citing yahoo.com? Great, I'll click yahoo.com. Oh, look, the link takes me to the next article. Oh, look, it's the same fucking thing. Okay, who's Yahoo citing? AP. Okay, let's click that link. We go to AP, and the AP says, we got this information from the State Department. Boom, done. So what's the fucking point of all these other news agencies that you're listening to? And can you find the lies, and can you find the... even if it's intentional or not, the U.S. media is lying to you, and people like us are taking over. That's it. I'm done with the segment. Your guys' thoughts?
Yeah, I want to jump in on that note. So here's one thing that bugs me. Like the main thing that bugs me about the legacy news is that people make claims, but they don't cite sources. Like we saw that in these articles, U.S. officials, but they don't tell us who that is. You know, my background is in research, and if we make a claim or draw from information in the literature, we have to cite a source, but people in the news don't do that. They get away with wording like U.S. officials, but they don't tell us who the heck that is. Ian.
I used to wash dishes at my first unit in the military. I worked for the government in the military washing dishes, but technically that makes me a government source, would it not?
Yes.
A U.S.
Yeah.
Official, if you will. If you want to get really subjective with the term.
One of you guys mentioned like the janitor in the Pentagon could be, you know, a Pentagon official.
He officially works there. Yep. Jackie, your thoughts?
Oh God, I don't even. I just can't. Like,
I can't either.
segments of news. Like, you know, I talked to you guys about this a while back, and you know, whether or not these things promote freedom or liberty, and I started looking through news sources every day, and it was just absolutely mind-numbing and infuriating. And I still would like to do that segment, but I can't bring myself to actually pay attention to any of this bullshit.
I used to be hooked on it, man.
I did too. I had CNN headline news playing in the background on a TV all the time. If I was at home, it was on in the background. That's all I used to do.
You know what kills me too? And I just can't stop talking about it. I'm so pumped. So every unit I was at in the military, including the one I'm at right now, we all now use our taxpayer money to put flat screen TVs in every room. So now you know that we're taking care of business. And you can't watch freaking cartoons. And if sports are on, people go nuts about it, which is another thing I don't get. But I'm not going to hassle you for it. But like 99% of the time, it was the news. And if I changed the channel, it was, what is that doing on TV? And I would always say, I'm sorry, is there a policy where I'm not allowed to watch Sunday morning cartoons when you have me working on a weekend doing paperwork? And it's another, on the Survival Podcast, on the episode I listened to today, they said, when people stop at red lights and there's nobody around and it's 2 a.m., there's no cops, there's no people, there's no cars, it's just you in a red light. Are you blindly following what a computer says versus making a choice as a human? So it's funny because so many people have this rigid idea of what's supposed to happen. And so I would change the channel from the news in my office and they would go, what are you doing? Why'd you do that? And even if they weren't watching, and I'd say, well, am I allowed to change it? Is there a policy against that? And they're just so confused. No, you just can't. It's weird. No one does that. Okay. Well, I think it's a problem when you're working for the government and you've sworn to uphold and defend the Constitution. And the only channel allowed on TV is the people that fucking lie to you over and over and over again. So I had a problem with that on a moral basis. So why they allow that is fucking beyond me. But, then again, it's the government, so a bunch of fucking idiots. Sorry, I'm done, man. I'm fucking cashed out. I'm done.
Well, speaking of government, what was the new segment idea that you came up with, Cap?
So I guess our main topic for tonight is, do you serve freedom and liberty or the flag and government?
They're not the same thing.
A lot of people are thinking, well, those are the same things, but the United States government and the American flag, they don't have rights to freedom and liberty. And I would argue that they don't really hold anything related to freedom and liberty these days. And I know some of you are probably going, well, then you can just fucking leave. But let's talk about this for a little bit.
All right. Well, where do we start?
So what is freedom? Well, Google says that freedom is the exemption from external control, interference, regulation, and a whole bunch of shit like that. So what is freedom to you guys?
Yeah, everyone's got their own definition, right?
Mm-hmm.
I try and boil it down as much as possible. And they're so closely linked. Freedom and liberty are both so closely linked.
Yeah.
Ox, you go first. Let me think.
I was thinking about the third segment. Freedom, I'll give you my definition, which is similar to my definition for abundance. It's just the ability to do what I need to do when I need to do it.
Yeah. That's very well put. I don't think I could put it any better than that.
Yeah. That's the short version. I'll leave it there.
All right. Well, I got to boil down here. So freedom, to me, is the lack of coercion or control, which is similar to what Google says.
Right.
And liberty is the state of being free. So I know that doesn't make a ton of sense on the surface, but freedom being a state is you exercising that and other people around you exercising that too, because you can have the freedom to do what you want. But if you're living in liberty, that means other people have their freedoms as well, and your freedoms stop where theirs start. So that is a super boiled down version that I can give you. So I guess Jack, you're rolling into liberty now.
All right. So Google says that liberty is freedom from arbitrary and despotic government control. Freedom from external or foreign rule, independence, freedom from control, interference, obligation, restriction, hampering conditions, etc. The power or right of doing, thinking, speaking, etc., according to choice. I think that's a pretty solid definition.
Would you say that we have both liberty and freedom in the U.S.?
I would say it is very limited.
I would too.
I would say that the illusion of freedom and liberty is fairly vast, kind of like the illusion of security. And I think those kind of go hand in hand. But yeah, I really don't think that we have much left.
Well, if you watch, since we referenced sports earlier, if you go to like a big NFL game, and you're in the stadium, and you see those freaking Blue Angels fly over the stadium, and you like right at the end of the national anthem where they time it perfectly, and do you know how expensive it is to put one of those jets in the air for even an hour?
Oh, well, very expensive.
Thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars per jet. So those are tax dollars. So it would be nice if you used our money wisely. We can still, get all riled up without burning all that jet fuel and the time and the maintenance and buying parts and all that crap. But if you go to a freaking NFL game and those jets fly over, man, I get those goosebumps too. That's cool as shit. I don't care who you are. And I fucking hate military pilots. I've had a very bad experience with them. All of them. I think they're prima donnas. But still, it's fucking cool to see those things. And it makes you think, Merica, freedom. And then you go to drive out of the stadium and there's a speed limit sign. And you go, like, I like to play this game like if I were a child. Like, okay, if I were my dad and I'm my own child, so I'm kind of both. Dad, why is there a speed limit? Can't we go faster? No, we can't. Oh, we can't? Well, we can. Oh, so why don't we? Well, there's a speed limit. Why is there a speed limit? What does that mean? That means there's a limit you can't go faster than. Oh, why does that exist? Well, because someone made a law. Well, why did someone make that law? Well, because if everyone went 100, what if people went 1,000 miles an hour? Do you know anyone that can drive 1,000 miles an hour? Well, no. Okay, so how fast could we safely drive? Well, it says 45, but I mean, we could safely drive like 60 or 70. Oh, so why don't we? Well, because the law says 45. Well, why don't they change it? Well, it's a long process. Well, why is it a long process? Oh, because there's a lot of bureaucracy. Well, why is there a lot of bureaucracy? Well, I mean, we vote in these people, and then they hire other people. Wait, so we don't vote for all of them? Well, no. Well, did you vote for at least some of them? Well, it's a local election. I don't do those. So I just go down this fucking rabbit trail, and I leave the stadium full of freedom and liberty and goosebumps and big ass American flags. Right back into that regulation.
Yep. And you can't drive unless you have a license.
Yeah, freedom of transportation and movement in this country, except you have to be regulated to do any of it.
Right. And your car has to be taxed. You're regulated.
Oh, we can talk about that. We're never going to get through the show if I fucking keep talking. You know that I have some insider information about registrations and vehicles and licenses and license plates.
Yes.
So let's put a plug in that. We'll move on.
All right. I didn't really look up a definition for flag because I think everyone knows kind of what that is. It's your mascot for your country. It's your it's your mascot. I don't know. I think flags are pretty dumb.
And they're made in other countries.
Yes. So don't you dare stand on that American flag or piss on it or burn it when it was made in China. That is blasphemy right there.
Well, and another way to look at that, I certainly wouldn't go stand on it or pee on it or whatever. But another way to look at it is, why am I going to use Fred over there standing on the flag as an excuse to feel bad or as an excuse to have a bad day? Like, why am I going to sacrifice my joy or how I'm feeling because someone else wants to be a douchebag, right?
Right.
It's similar to like the dude that didn't want to, the guy that didn't want to stand for the anthem. Like, he wanted to take a knee for the anthem. Like, why should I choose to sacrifice how I feel? Like, maybe I feel good watching the football game. Why should I sacrifice that because he wants to take a knee? Who cares? He wants to take a knee. Let him take a knee. I'm not going to like give up my joy because he wants to do that. That makes sense?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yep.
I'm
going to get my...
Go, Jackie. All right. I'll pick up the ball. Another thing is, I was I was just in Guantanamo Bay
Hello?
for a deployment. Yeah, we got you, bud.
Okay, sorry. I think it froze up for a second.
Yeah, I'll finish my short story here and then we'll move on. So I was just
Okay.
in Guantanamo Bay for a military deployment, and in our big galley in the middle of the base, there's a huge, beautiful painting of the American flag, and it's kind of in graffiti, and it's kind of a little messy, and it's kind of got some symbolism in there, but it's the big red, white, and blue, stars on it flag, and it's an original edition of something, like it's a painting someone made, and the flag is incorrect. And no one fucking said a thing. And it's like this huge flag painting on the wall in our big, our cafeteria. And
Are there 57 stars?
the blue portion, it's supposed to go down, I think, like there's 13 stripes from the top to the bottom, the red and white stripes.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the blue portion is supposed to go down 6, and then there's 7 free ones below it. And the blue portion went down 7, and I looked at it over and over, and I was like, something's just not right about this. And the big rectangle that's supposed to be the blue field was stretched over too many of the red and white stripes. So it just looked like wonky, like it looked awkward. But no one was in there like repainting it. No one was in there filing complaints. No one was in there like, oh, this is not freedom. Well, no. See, when you really think about it, no one gives a shit. But when the media gets you all worked up about it, you're like, how dare them paint the flag wrong? It's on a government building. Yeah, there's one in your government building, and you've never said a thing. So these are the same people that go to the ball game, and they're like, take your fucking hat off, the anthem's playing. Yeah, well, I got chemo, buddy. I'm bald, and I don't really like doing that. Well, I'm going to fight you. Okay, let's do it.
So what do you guys think about the military people who say that they have friends and family that died for that flag?
Well, I would say that they are incorrect. No one dies for a piece of paper or a piece of cloth.
A piece of cloth,
I hope they didn't die for the fucking cloth, because that would be a fucking waste.
Yeah, exactly.
You guys see that in movies too, and I had an argument with my old man about that. I love him to death, and he was in a service profession his whole life too, but he was like, if I ever, you're my son and you're in the military, and if I ever see those protesters stepping on the flag, I'm going to go over there and knock them out. And I was like, well, Dad, I didn't serve to protect a flag. I served to, protect people's individual freedom and liberty. He's like, oh, I'm like, that doesn't give you the right to knock people out because you disagree with them. He's like, oh, what, are you going to arrest me? I'm like, this is not a time for this conversation. What kind of beer you want? Let's have a beer. Let's fucking turn on a game. So, yeah, I did. I went and served for them to be able to do that. Yes, we're done. That's the argument. We're done.
Okay.
So our audio's up to date, and we're rolling through government. Do you serve your government? Okay, well, maybe if you work for the government, here's something that might happen to you. I like to make the joke because it's sad and funny to me that when you raise your right hand and you swear your oath to office or oath to public service or oath to the military, in that oath, the thing that you swear to is not the president. You don't swear to protect the president. You don't swear to praise the president or the government, but I'll read the quote for you. This is our link from www.quantico.marines.mil, and this says the difference between the oath of enlistment for enlisted people and for officers. Let's go ahead and skip ahead because for some reason that's not showing up. The military.com says, before you raise your right hand, make sure you understand what you are swearing or attesting to. Side note here from Pat. Well, it's a good thing that military.com fucking suggests this, because surprisingly, in my experience, both military and law enforcement, they don't say a single fucking thing about you knowing what that oath means. So it's great that the website says it, but when you show up at the recruiter's office and they take you to MEPS for processing, and they go, all right, raise your right hand, it has become something that you do to get hired, not something that you understand and believe in. And the flip side of this argument is, well, I've heard people say, people that are just waking up and are a little early in the movement, and they think that fixing the government should be the government's job. So they say things like, well, we should have a class that the government teaches about what the Constitution means. And I reply to them, you what's going to happen when they fuck that up like they do with everything else and they teach you the wrong thing about the Constitution? So no, the government should not have a class teaching you what it is. But if you're going to, why don't you take some responsibility on your own and do some research before you swear to something? So do you serve your government? Well, you're not supposed to serve your government. You're supposed to serve the Constitution. And unfortunately, many people in the government do things while they work for the government that is unconstitutional. Not to mention Edward Snowden, things like that, where they say, yeah, I swore an oath and I thought it meant something. Sorry. What an idiot I am, right? And we can switch topics to, well, the same topic, but let's go ahead and give you guys a quote from a buddy of mine, TJ. It says, quote, "When government fears the people, there is liberty. When the people fear the government, there is tyranny." That's from Thomas Jefferson. So one of the guys that started our government said, we are not supposed to have an out-of-control government, and they are supposed to fear us, not the other way around. That's weird. Yeah. He fucking designed the whole thing. One of his buddies, old G-Dub, original, says, government is not reason. It is not eloquence. It is force. Like a fire, a troublesome servant, and a fearful master. Never for a moment should it be left to irresponsible action. This is from George Washington, who I believe is quoted to have said, "Nuh-uh, I don't want nothing to do with your presidency. I did my part, I'm out." And they said, "No, please come back." And he did another one. They were like, "We really want you for a second term here, president." He's like, I don't like that. Okay, fine, I'll do a second one, but that's it. And then we had a precedent for presidential term limits. So another way I hear this quote from George Washington is, government is like a fire. If it's small and maintained, it can provide a lot of things for you. If it's out of control, it can burn your fucking house down.
Oh, that's a great analogy.
And I don't think he used those words exactly, but I think you get the picture. So these are people that started the government. So do we serve the government blindly? Yeah, well, in the military and even civilians. If you don't fucking kneel for the flag, I'll break your legs. I'll give you a reason to kneel. Good. So we hold the flag above people's actual physical safety and liberty and freedom. Yeah, let's do that. Let's trample on people's rights because they don't stand or sit the way you like. That's good.
Yep. While I like that saying, I'm kind of the best government is no government. And I know a lot of people aren't going to agree with that, but that's kind of where I'm at. I don't like any government.
I don't think I need them.
Yeah. I'm doing pretty good on my own.
Eddie, I want to talk to you.
What's your problem, baby?
I don't like the way you treat me, Eddie. You treat me like animal.
You was butt naked on Zebra last month.
I don't care, Eddie. I'm an American woman now. I want what's coming to me. Eddie, what have you done for me lately?
All right, so if my editing worked, and that was the short clip with Eddie Murphy wearing sweet purple leathers, and that man, that must have been hot on stage. All right, that brings us to segment 3.
Segment 3. So we compiled a list of questions that we're probably going to be asking guests of the show. So there's sort of consistency there. And by the way, if you want to be a guest on the show, go ahead and fill out the guest form. You can find that on the website, libertymastermind.com.
Podcast.com.
What's that?
libertymastermindpodcast.com.
What did I say? Don't listen to me. Listen to Pat.
You missed the last word, but it was close.
So we have these questions we're going to be asking guests, and we thought we would go ahead and answer them ourselves this first round. So, tentative question for guests. First one.
Are we doing this in soundbite format, like lightning round? Or are we kind of getting deep?
I don't know how lightning I'm going to be, but first question. What do you see as the biggest threat to your liberty or lifestyle? Well, certainly something that I've been very mindful of lately is not having sufficient resources is quite limiting. and emotionally taxing. So say family members need a hand with something out of state, but I don't have the resources, either time or money, to go help. Well, that's a horrible feeling. Related, being sort of locked into a job or opportunity that isn't a fit, or feeling like I have to behave differently with a boss or colleague because I can't lose that income, is also a horrible feeling. So my attention has been focused lately on how can I increase the value that I bring to any role I'm in, and how can I have side hustles going that bring in additional revenue to me. So let me apply this in an example. Let's say I had a year's salary saved up to cover my family expenses. Maybe I'd be a little more bold at work. Maybe I'd draw stronger boundaries with bosses and colleagues, with less concern for losing my job, because I know that I have that safety net of a year's salary saved up. So bottom line, not having enough resources is a concern for liberty and self-empowerment. Do you guys want me to do all the questions for all the Q&A for myself, or do you want to go back and forth? We didn't figure that out.
Let's just keep rolling with it. So question,
all right,
what we're going to call number 2 for Ox. What's the top resource you draw from to add strategies that empower yourself and increase liberty? So besides our podcast, books, movies, other people, what's your thing that helps you out?
Okay. Well, besides our podcast, being in behavior and mental health, I'd say that tapping into the psychological changes is something I focus primarily on. So invariably, I listen to some sort of transformational speaker in the morning or throughout the day, which kind of serves to drown out some of the mental noise in my head. And I get to learn from what has accelerated the growth of people that I look to. So my top resource is simply going to YouTube and typing in whatever speaker I feel like listening to at the time. And that could be Les Brown, Tony Robbins, Eric Thomas, E.T. the hip hop preacher, Zig Ziglar, Lisa Nichols, Norman Vincent Peale, Earl Nightingale, Jim Rohn, Steve Harvey, John DeMartini, and that's just to name a few.
All right, next question. When life is challenging, what do you do to bring mental ease to yourself to get through the challenges, to bring some insight and some clarity? On your character building days, what do you do to help?
So character building days, that's I think Les Brown is the one that I heard say that originally. So that's easy. My go-to, and it's been my go-to for almost 2 decades now, I'd say, is getting out, like outdoors, and taking a long walk. I don't know why, but for some reason, getting exhausted, moving my body, getting air into my lungs, getting out in nature really helps me process the challenging things that happen in life. And believe me, I have them. Tony Robbins talks about changing physiology. In other words, changing your body as one of the easiest ways that we can change our state of being, how we're feeling. And that could be changing your posture, breathing deeply, and so on. So instead of sitting on my butt feeling sorry for myself or angry or upset or whatever, I put on my running shoes and I get out and I walk, sometimes for 3 or 4 hours.
Awesome. Next one up, we got a mentor once told Ox, start every day happy. Mm-hmm. What does Ox do to start his day happy, to set the tone? That's kind of a similar answer, I would guess, and it's the same one you did on the last one.
It's pretty similar. Yeah, and the gentleman that said that is a guy named Jeff Ling. He's a MD, PhD, neurointensive care physician, White House advisor, DARPA director, retired. He's a bad mamma jamma. So yeah, it does go back to what I mentioned about listening to transformational speakers in the morning. And again, I want to emphasize there are multiple benefits. Listening to and staying focused on someone else kind of helps prevent the mind from wandering into nonsense, right? Oh, my house is a mess. Oh, I need to go grocery shopping. I hate grocery shopping. Parking is always a bitch at the grocery store. I hope they aren't selling Girl Scout cookies out front. I like Samoas. I'm fat. Right? That whole mental nonsense that goes on, it can kind of drown it out. Number 2, hearing those amazing speakers kind of gets my creative juices flowing. They help me kind of get into peak state early in the day so I can come up with ideas for work, for Liberty Mastermind podcast, or address challenges kind of in a creative way.
Next question. And this is our last one. So recommended reading for people in the audience. So something besides what you already talked about, unless it's like the tippy top of your list, but let's shoot for like 1 or 2 at the top of your list, either YouTube channels or podcast channels or a book or some type of stand-up event. What do you got? Top 2.
Yeah.
For you, either for your specific subject that you're into or for Liberty in general. Ready, go.
Well, I got to mention my own stuff, right? So more medical related content and some mantras. It's sort of a portal for all that behavioral health stuff that I've kind of touched on, but it's uplifting.us. It's uplifting us. You also got to check out some ultraprepper.com for some tips and humor. I like to infuse that site with humor. And on the financial side, which is what I kind of mentioned earlier, the side hustle, the financial side, probably in 2018, smurfitup.com is where we're going to be doing some of that. But aside from that, a major contributor to me changing my own thought processes to beef up my own self-sufficiency and self-reliance has been, drumroll, the Survival Podcast, hands down. You can go there and click on any random episode and you will find some nugget in that episode, something portable that you can use in your own life. And that's what I found the most fascinating thing about it. I highly recommend it. In fact, it served to inspire us. I'd argue it served to inspire us to start this podcast to serve the Liberty Mastermind Podcast Nation.
Awesome. Good answers. Jackie, you ready?
Sure.
You going to wing it or you got some shit written down?
No, I'm going to wing it, and it's not going to be near as long as Ox's shit.
All righty. Rock and roll. So we're going to start out with, I'm going to throw an extra question in, and we're going to change our numbers up a little bit. Number 1, what for you changes the temperature in your pool? And obviously this is metaphorical, but it's what for you is the biggest thing in your circle of influence? What can affect you?
Affect in a good way or a bad way?
Up to you. Player's choice.
I guess learning. Learning really changes everything for me. If I constantly have to learn things. I don't know. I always say my mind never stops, and that's a big problem. But I guess it's really not. But
there's some solutions to that.
Yeah, I know. Right?
Heroin.
Yeah, that's not an option.
Go ahead.
Learning really excites me. It finding something new, something interesting. I mean, there's so much variety in this world. I don't know. I don't think there's nothing. You can't run out of some stuff to learn.
I feel the same way. Rock and roll. Number 2. What do you see as the biggest threat to your liberty or your lifestyle?
Not learning.
Give me something better.
Being lazy, watching TV, watching sports, anything that distracts me from learning or growing as a person.
That was a curveball. I thought you were going to say some type of external thing. That's even just the way I read the question. Awesome. All right. Number 3. What is the top resource that you draw from to add strategies that kind of empower yourself to increase your liberty besides our podcast?
Man, I had a good answer for this earlier. I should have wrote it down. Top resource I draw from.
Where do you learn most of your stuff from?
I get a lot of information from podcasts. At least it's a starting point. God, there's just so much to talk about.
Work through it.
I want to keep it short. Okay. So podcast, the Hardcore History Put Dan Carlin.
Say that one more time. You cut out.
Dan Carlin's Hardcore History podcast. That is, if you want to learn about history, that is an amazing place to start. And most of it's like war history, but he's a masterful storyteller, and there's just tons and tons of information. Mostly, I don't know. I listen to a lot of podcasts. I do a lot of thinking. I do a lot of talking with you guys. That keeps me motivated.
So a mastermind group helps.
And then I just break everything down into, is this encroaching on someone or myself?
That's right. Yeah. And for those of you that don't know much about Jack, that encroaching, that's one of your principles, isn't it, on your About Me page on the website?
Yes.
So you can click on the About Your Hosts on our main page, libertymastermindpodcast.com. If you go in the top tab, you can see kind of a little write-up that each of us have done for ourselves. Let's shoot to the next one. So number 3, the resource you draw from, podcasting, big time. All right, number 4, when life is challenging, on your character building days, we call them, what do you do to bring mental ease to yourself to get through the day?
Listen to music. Like there's specific things that I listen to when I need to calm down, or I don't know, just kind of having a shitty day. Some of the music that makes me feel, I guess, better, it would be X-Tall from Aphex Twin. And I know I said I don't watch a lot of TV, but the theme song from The Office, I just hear that and it puts me in a better mood.
I don't think I've heard that.
Well, if you decide to plug into that, just get your IV site ready, Ox, because it's a nonstop ride. It's hard to turn
it is. And you know, I said when I was younger, I always had headline news in the background. And now it's kind of I have The Office playing in the background, and I'll just kind of go about my, whatever I'm doing, and The Office is playing, and it plays a lot, because my little girl, she'll when the theme song starts playing, she'll like stop what she's doing and run up to the TV and dance, and it's, I don't know, it's really awesome. It's just a good fucking song.
Moving on, number 5. A mentor once told Ox, start every day happy. What do you do to kind of set the tone for your day? Do you have something?
I get out of bed and I play Quote of the Day Show.
Sweet. By
Sean Croxton. It's a podcast. That's usually how I start out my day.
Alrighty, number 6, our last one. Recommended reading. So any YouTube channel or specific podcast or specific book that you can recommend to the audience. So maybe not just for you, but that you recommend to other people. Top 1 or 2.
I don't really have a lot of time to read right now, so it's mostly podcast. So yeah, I would say Sean Croxton, the daily quotes, and yeah, I guess that'd be my top 1.
If I could jump in for 1 sec. So Cap, Jack mentioned the Quote of the Day Show. I listened to that as well. And a minute ago, I mentioned like Zig Ziglar, Tony Robbins, Lisa Nichols. It's got all the amazing transformational speakers, and it's got like maybe 10 to 15 minute clips that come to you every day. It's really good. Check it out.
Yeah, it is.
I hope you guys are writing some notes for your own answers here, because this would be some real good stuff to put in our show notes for the day on our website for this specific episode.
Yep. Right.
Who's going to be my huckleberry here?
I will. All right. So numero uno. What for you changes the temperature in your pool?
Without a doubt, it would be kind of a twofold answer. HOAs and having a restrictive job. And the 2 of which I have are quite restrictive for my lifestyle, and I would like very much to leave them at some point. I don't like shaving my face. I don't like wearing an itchy uniform. I don't like being in a life or death situation with people that are incapable of training and incapable of leading and incapable of communicating. And also the fact that if I do my job properly, and even if I do my job without criminal intent, and without failing, and with all my due process, I can still be found guilty. And even if I'm not found guilty, let's say for shooting, I can still be fired kind of without cause, even though I've done the right thing and been found innocent. I can still be let go at 18 years before I collect a retirement. Not to mention, I like to make my own work schedule. I like to wear what I want. I like to say what the hell I want. So definitely, at even the house that I live, like I want to go outside and work on a project. So if I want to freaking spray paint something on my driveway, I don't want someone bitching saying I'm bringing the value of their house down. Well, I'm not doing it to your house. I'm doing it to mine. And if I want my grass to grow a little long, that's my deal. Hashtag freedom.
I'll never live in an HOA. Never. Ever. All right. What do you see as the biggest threat to your liberty or lifestyle?
We'll just repeat answer number 1. Next.
All right. And number 2 is kind of tricky for me because I kind of think of things that are a little more outside my sphere of influence that could encroach on my sphere of influence when I read that question, and I wanted to stay inside my sphere.
I'll tell you an actual answer for number 2. So what is the biggest threat to my liberty? It's actually the government, and for me, it's a little bit the federal government, but mostly it's the state saying you need to have the federal government, you have to fill out this form to buy a gun that's just a little bit shorter than the other guns, or the state saying, well, you have to have a business license to have a business, and well, you can have a business. You don't even have to pay us for a business license, but you must be registered. But once you're registered, you must report to us every week with your income, even if you didn't make any income. What? No, absolutely not. That is a huge threat to my liberty and my lifestyle. If I want to teach someone and say, hey, I'll teach you how to shoot, give me $100. Well, are you insured? Oh, God, fine, let me go get insured. No, we're just buddies at the range, and you're paying for ammo and my gas. So, sure, I'll go get insured. Okay, to get insured, I have to have a business. To have a business, I have to fill out the form. To fill out the form, I have to update them every time I exchange money and write receipts. I'm a one-man show. I don't have time for that. So that is a huge threat to my liberty. Boom.
Yep. What is the top resource you draw from to add strategies that empower yourself, increase liberty, besides our podcast?
I would say the Survival Podcast with Jack Spirko, but it's actually going to be his kind of little brother site attached to it. It's called 5 Minutes with Jack. And I think the website is jackspirko.com. I think it is. I'll double check. So 5 Minutes with Jack started out as a 5-minute podcast done by Jack Spirko. And he runs you from beginning, episode 1, all the way past episode 100. I think it's in the 120s. And it turns into like an hour-plus show kind of at the end. And it has helped me immensely. I don't know shit about computers, and I must have listened to the entire 100 plus episodes 5 or 6 times, all the way through every single episode, multiple times now.
I actually have not listened to those.
Oh my God, it's you. And
you got to get on it.
Yeah, some of it's outdated because he says, oh, Google just changed their search SEO. Well, that was like, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 years ago. So obviously, with all this shit going on now.
Regular basis.
Yeah. And like, there's a glitch in this Facebook program. Okay, well, that glitch has long since been fixed. So some of it's outdated, but he says this phrase in his 5 Minutes with Jack podcast all the time. He says, you just learned more in the last 10 minutes than you would have learned in 4 years of business school. And that is huge value. And not for nothing, but I think school's a fucking joke. Unless you're going to be a chemical engineer or a doctor, maybe college isn't the place for you.
Yep. Okay. When life is challenging, the character building days, what do you do to bring mental ease to yourself to get through the challenges, to bring insight and clarity?
It's funny that for me, kind of physical fitness and my emotional state are both very closely linked. And the problem is that while it's sometimes an upward spiral, you get that runner's high or you get that good pump in the gym and you feel better about yourself, you feel confident. It's also a downward spiral at the same time. So it's kind of a constant battle. It's a sliding scale. Either you're working to get better or you're working to get worse. So for me, when I'm having a character building day, I literally either go to the gym or I go outside and run until I fucking throw up and I don't stop. So when I know when I'm about to hit rock bottom, and I do hit that rock bottom. And it happens. It's probably about once a year, maybe once every other year, or twice a year, somewhere in that kind of boundary. And everything sucks. I'm tired. I look like shit. I feel like shit. I'm pale. My eyes are sullen. And I go, fuck this. We're turning this around. So I hit the bottom. I bounce up. And I fucking work out as hard as I can until something breaks or I throw up. And that's it. I move on. And to be honest, it's almost like a purge. Like it's cleansing. Like I think to myself, oh my God, this is it. All right, we can do this. Feeling good. And then from there, it's just uphill climb.
That's cool. All right. A mentor once told me, start every day happy. What do you do to start your day happy?
I have a mastermind group that I'm a part of with my buddy Ox, my buddy Jack. And one of the three of us usually wakes up and text in our group text, start today happy. Boom. And while I did think it was a little goofy at first, I came to like that, and I was like, you know what? It's a good damn point. And I also had a mentor of mine when I was in the service. Awesome. He was wise beyond his years, and he was the oldest guy on the team, and I was the youngest guy on the team at the time. And we went to Africa, and we got really close there. And he said, sometimes you got to enjoy the little things. And I thought, oh, that's so cliche. And I kind of like ribbed him for it. And I was like, you're an idiot. And he's like, we're sitting out on the back of this big ass metal box in the middle of the, fuck was the name of that place? Off the coast of Somalia, right?
Mogadishu.
It's the name of some sea out there, the Red Sea, Aegean Sea, I don't freaking know. But we're in the middle of this freaking waterway. It's blue all around. We have literally, you don't get sunsets better than being on a smooth ocean. You don't. So we have a beautiful sunset. We got the wind in our freaking hair. We're out on the back of this boat, kind of hanging out, doing our job. We are pros at our craft. And he said, have you ever seen me miss a sunset out here? And he's like a salty, old, angry man. And I was a little shocked to hear it. I'm like, wow, he's kind of opening up. Oh my God, pay attention. So he's like, have you ever seen me miss a sunset out here? And I'm like, well, I guess not. No, I haven't, because I'm always out here with you. He's like, yeah, what do you think I'm doing out here? I'm like, smoking? He's like, yeah. And he's like, you don't get sunsets better than this, man. Every fucking night I make sure I'm out here. And there's other things during the day that I'm like, that's a really cool thing. And then I move on. He's like, I'm not a flower child. I'm not a hippie. I'm not like in love with the universe. He's like, but I'm an old man. And, occasionally I'm like, well, would you look at that? They designed that really neat, that fucking light switch. All right, well, moving on. And he says it keeps me fucking sane. Because if all you have is this fucking misery and this stress, and whether it's good stress or bad stress, he's like, if that's all you have on the brain, he's like, you're going to have a hard time. So I text you guys. I say start every day happy. And then I also find little, like I used to have to sneak up on them, but now those moments sneak up on me. So I'll be taking a walk and I'm like, all these different fucking trees, holy shit. But they all got different names too. Ain't that something? All right, moving on. So those moments will kind of surprise me instead of me looking for them. That keeps me sane.
Love it.
Awesome. Yeah, recommended reading, YouTube podcasting for your personal subject and for the Liberty Movement.
I'll give you two, one for each. For the Liberty Movement, I have a book that I reviewed on my website, uncensoredtactical.com. The book is War is a Racket. It's by a guy named General Smedley Butler. We talked about it on the show before here. That is the red pill for government today. That's the red pill for us to take to say, it's a little red pill, it's tiny. It's only a couple pages long. The book, I think, is like in the 40s-ish. I can't remember, but it's like 40-ish pages. When you read that, the bullet points in there, like these little nuggets of information, there's so many of them, and they are so crystal clear that the entire government and military and industry in this country are fucked, in my mind. They're done. It makes it so clear that every single argument that I ever plan on having with anybody, even though it's called War as a Racket, it's about so much more than just war. It's about the government, the military-industrial complex, and big business, and how they all tie together. And then it's huge for pattern recognition because, we beat that last war. Great, we did it. Better have another one. Why? Why do we have another one? We've kind of been at war continuously since we founded this country. Why is that? Well, if you look before World War One, businesses were making X amount of dollars, and then during World War One, those same businesses, because of government contracts, made 30 times X amount of dollars annual revenue. So why, if you're in big business, would you not want to go to war? You're not going, you're running the business. You're smart enough that your kids aren't going, they're going to take over the business. The government's not going to war, and when the government's doing all these contract dealings, they win. Who's the only fucking people that lose? Me. People like me that are dumb enough to fucking go over there. Well, brave enough and courageous enough and tricked enough. We go over there, we fight, we come home with physical and or mental scars, or we come home in a fucking box. And who wins? Business wins, government wins. Who loses? Me. That's it, period. There's one loser. It's the person that goes to fight. So read that book, War is a Racket. It's a short book. Number 2, recommended reading. For my specific skill set, for my lockpicking, anything with the name Deviant Ollam on it. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that last name right. Ollam. I have 2 of his books. One's called Keys to the Kingdom, and one's called Practical Lockpicking. I recommend both. They're huge. They're big, thick books. They have big, wide pages. They have lots of color pictures, lots of great explanations. And if you go on YouTube and type in Deviant Ollam, Deviant Ollam, 2 words. That's the name that he goes by on YouTube and in his writing. Anything on YouTube with that name in it is 100% value. He is so good at his craft. It's almost like embarrassing for me to watch. I'm like, wow, he goes so deep on all these subjects. And you can tell when people talk when they are an expert. And he is, without a doubt, an expert in entries and social engineering and lockpicking and all sorts of topics. If you go to his website, I think it's just hisname.com. You can just Google it. It's his homepage. There's about, 10 or 20 little icons of all the things that he's into and that he talks about and that he knows about. And all of them, he goes into great detail and great depth. And he is a great public speaker, and he's great at taking information and giving that information to you in a way that makes sense. And he's funny, and he drinks a lot when he teaches. Oh, go figure. A man after my own heart. So read War is a Racket, and anything on YouTube or any book with the name Deviant Ollam on it, I promise you is worth the read.
We need to get him on the show.
Yeah, I'm going to try and reach out to him soon.
Awesome.
Yeah, good idea.
So that was our
All right,
segment.
well,
The 3 of us ran through it. All right. Go ahead, Jack.
I'm going to end the show with a closing thought. A friend of mine, Scott Bowers, wrote this on Facebook this morning. It was one of the first things I saw when I got online. Scott Bowers is a chemical engineer, and he's a pretty smart guy. So he wrote, "Unabashed, unflinching individual human liberty is the only solution to everything you hate in this world, and is the only vehicle for everything you love in this world. One must have the liberty to include who or what one wants in their life, and one must also possess the liberty to exclude who and what one wants from their life. The flip side to all this, the greater the number of exclusions one places on their life, the lower the probability for prosperity and stability. Property hasn't any value if it can't interact with others. So if you've been yelling at the brown man your entire life, don't be shocked when people who don't find this exclusion necessary, or in fact find this exclusion to be counterproductive or bad for business, and want to exclude you. Liberty is all about one's freedom of inclusion and exclusion, as well as accepting the responsibility for the consequences that result from these inclusions and exclusions." And then he ended it with a little inside joke: "Only fools chase rainbows."
That's all. Even the first sentence on that one had me going. I loved it.
Yeah, it was really good, and I messaged him right away and said, "Hey, I want to use this for my podcast today."
Whew. Well, hopefully there was a ton of value packed in this one today.
I hope so. I wish there was better fucking internet for this show today. Sorry.
All right. Well, everyone in the audience, thanks for sticking around through the audio quality. We had a couple pauses and a couple loops there, but hopefully you got the point. And who's taking us out today, Jackie?
Yeah, sure. That's the end of episode 9. Thanks for listening, and we hope you tune in next week. If you found value in today's show, then please subscribe and follow us at libertymastermindpodcast.com, Liberty Mastermind Podcast on YouTube, at the Liberty 3 on Twitter, and you can download us on iTunes and Google Play. And feel free to get involved in the comment section for today's show. Until next time, be alert, stay safe, and seek out liberty in everything you do.